Time only moves forward. That's what we were told. That's what every second on the clock insists, with its slow, obedient tick. One moment becomes the next. Past becomes memory. Future becomes hope. Present becomes invisible. And yet, somewhere deep in the folds of consciousness, something resists that flow. Close your eyes and time becomes slippery. Was that yesterday? Or a dream? Did it happen already? Or is it about to? You may think you're lying still, in bed, in the dark, listening to a quiet voice whisper ideas into the shape of sleep. But what if you're moving through time right now? Not forward, not backward, but in loops, spirals, detours, recursive? Folds. This is a journey not through time, but around it. Tonight, you're not here to solve time travel. You're here to get lost in it, and in doing so, to gently drift, like a page caught in a slow-motion breeze, tumbling through ideas that have no beginning, no ending, and no need to obey clocks. You'll meet paradoxes that fold on themselves like origami universes. Clocks that never started ticking. People who were never born and yet somehow caused your memories. You'll visit corridors where every step forward moves you backward, or sideward, or outside the concept of ward altogether. Each paradox we explore as a mirror, not of science fiction, but of how your mind works when it forgets to be logical. These aren't just time travel stories. They're gentle echoes of something older than science, dreams of philosophers, whispers from physicists who stared too long at equations that stared back. You won't need to understand any of it. In fact, it's better if you don't. Let these ideas slip through your fingers like soft sand. Let your thoughts slow down like molasses dripping in reverse. Imagine a future memory, a feeling you haven't had yet. Imagine being born again in the past. Imagine realizing this moment already happened or never did, or is still happening somewhere outside of linearity. The paradoxes are waiting. Not in order, not in time, just in space. Space.so, lie still. Breathe like someone who has all the time in the world, because maybe you do. Maybe time is watching you sleep, waiting for its turn to unfold. Maybe your dreams tonight will build the past instead of the future. Maybe you will wake up before you fell asleep. Maybe you already did. Let us begin. You open your eyes, not because something happened, but because something might. Not yet. Not now. Just maybe. It's quiet and still. But something in the air feels like it's already responded to an action you haven't taken. Welcome to. The paradox known as time before cause, where the effect doesn't wait for the cause. It arrives early. Sits there, patient, like an answer with no question. A shadow with no body. A ripple before the stone hits the surface. You don't need to understand it. You just need to feel it. Imagine you're walking down a forest path at dusk. The trees are tall. The air is thick with the scent of moss and fading daylight. You feel a breeze, soft, cold, sudden. But you look around and nothing moved. No bird took flight. No squirrel dashed by. The wind just arrived. Now, imagine. You hear a branch snap behind you, except you already turned around a few seconds earlier. Something pulled your attention back before the sound ever happened. Your body responded before the cause existed. That's what this paradox lives in. Those strange moments where the sequence falls apart, where time misbehaves just a little. Let's stretch the idea further. You're in a room, a quiet one. You feel a chill run down your spine, a pressure in your chest. Nothing dramatic, just a small wave of discomfort, a prickling awareness, and then 2 minutes later, the light bulb above you pops. You flinch again, but something about this second flinch feels rehearsed, like your body had already prepared for it. This isn't about ghosts or premonitions. It's about how reality might not follow the simple rule of first the cause, then the effect. Because what if time is more like a fabric, and sometimes that fabric bunches up? Maybe events don't always line up neatly. Maybe sometimes the ripple gets there before the pebble. Physicists call this retrocausality, the idea that effects can, in certain conditions, influence their own causes. It's been toyed with in quantum experiments, but tonight you don't need experiments. You just need to rest inside the idea. Take another slow breath. You're not stuck in linear time. Not right now. You're lying still in a moment that might already be shaped by what comes next. Maybe your body has already prepared to fall asleep before you even realize you're tired. Maybe your dreams are already waiting for you, written by a version of you further down the timeline. And all of this is just the space in between. There's a famous thought experiment involving a gun, a trigger, and decision. Imagine this. There's a device that will fire a signal backward in time the moment someone pulls the trigger. But the device is rigged. It sends the signal not to the moment after, but to the moment before. So, if someone chooses to pull the trigger, the signal goes back and prevents the person from ever deciding to pull it in the first place. Which means they don't pull it. But if they don't, the signal isn't sent. And if no signal is sent, there's no interference, and they do pull it. And round it goes. In effect that cancels its own cause. Now, imagine this not as a science fiction weapon, but as your thoughts. How many of your choices seem to just appear in your mind, fully formed? You walk into the kitchen and already know you'll open the fridge before you consciously decide it. You reach for your phone before remembering. Why? Maybe you're not causing your actions. Maybe your actions are echoing backward, quietly arranging your decision before you even know they're yours. Maybe this paradox isn't broken logic. Maybe it's sleep's logic, where memories sometimes arrive before the experience, where your body relaxes in anticipation of a rest you haven't given it, where comfort begins before the blanket touches your skin. You're in a bed, drifting. Now, somewhere between cause and effect. A quiet space where it doesn't matter which came first. You feel a yawn rise, not because you're tired, but because the dream is already waiting. Maybe it's whispering to your brain right now, crafting symbols, making shapes, sending sensations backward, priming your breath to slow, your heart to settle. No rush. No need to figure it out. You're here in this moment. And maybe this moment is here because of the next one. Maybe the cause of your calm is still ahead of you, like a ripple from a stone that hasn't yet touched the water. Or maybe, just maybe, you are the ripple, waiting to make sense. So let go of the order. Let go of the timeline. Let time fold a little. Let the future soothe the present. And let the next paradox slowly find you, just before you're ready for it. You are still here, still resting, still drifting. But something somewhere just changed. You didn't feel it. You didn't hear it, but a thought just arrived that wasn't here a moment ago. Not a memory, not an idea. More like a shadow of something that hasn't happened yet. A soft nudge from tomorrow. This is the quiet place where the paradox called future triggers past begins to unfold. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? But in dreams and sometimes in life, backwards isn't wrong. It's just a direction we don't often follow. Let your body settle a little more. Let your hands feel heavy. Let your breath fall into rhythm with nothing. Now, imagine a candle. It's burning gently on a windowsill. Wax melting slowly. Flame flickering with the softness of a whisper. But in this version of the world, the candle didn't start with a match. It started because someone in the future decided they would light it. Not yet. Not now. Just someday. That decision, not the flame itself, but the certainty of it, is what causes the wax to begin melting now. Strange, isn't it? But this is what the paradox is asking. Can an event in the future create the conditions for the past to unfold the way it did? Let's slow that down. You sit in a room and suddenly feel motivated. You clean, you write, you make something. You don't know why. There's no reason. Just a quiet force pulling you forward. But what if that force wasn't from now? What? If it was reaching back from a future version of you, the one who needed this day to happen, who needed this small moment of effort to make sense of something later? Maybe the motivation wasn't coming from within, but from what comes after. In quantum physics, there are strange equations that don't care about time moving forward. Some particles behave as if their current state is influenced by something. That hasn't occurred yet. as if the measurement in the future reaches back and shapes what was already true. But tonight isn't about quantum math. Tonight is about letting your body relax into the idea that the future doesn't just wait for you. It might be watching you. It might be shaping you. You are lying down still and slow in the middle of a timeline that isn't straight. Maybe your heartbeat is keeping time with a tomorrow you haven't lived yet. Maybe your next dream is already rewriting this moment, softening it, stretching it, preparing it for something that hasn't arrived. There's an old story. A man plants a seed. Not because he wants fruit now, but because he remembers eating the fruit. The memory isn't his, it's from a child he hasn't met yet. The child who will someday sit under the tree and ask, "Why did you plant it?" And the man will say, "Because I knew you'd be here." Sometimes we do things now because the future demands it. And sometimes the future exists only because of what we do now. It's not linear. It's a conversation. Think about how many things in your life feel guided by something vague, something you can't quite name. A decision you made that didn't feel like a choice, but more like a response. To what? To when? You rest now not because you're tired, but because you already needed rest. You relax not because of what just happened, but because something will happen. Something that needs you rested, quiet, and calm. The future sends signals back. You may not hear them, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe the signal is in the softness of your breath right now, in the way your eyelids get heavier without needing to, in the way this voice feels familiar, like you've already heard it, in a dream you haven't dreamed yet. So just rest inside this idea. You are not stuck in now. You are gently being pulled toward something that already knows you. And in doing so, you send waves backward, not to change the past, but to give it meaning. Let time melt. Let direction dissolve. Let the candle burn without a match. Let your body drift like a feather, caught between cause and consequence, shaped not by what came before, but by what quietly waits ahead. You're not late. You're not early. You're exactly where you need to be, because something in the future already chose it. You hear ticking, not loud, not near, just faint, like something mechanical far away. A clock maybe, or something pretending to be one dot. It doesn't matter what time it says, because this clock doesn't have a beginning. That's what makes this paradox so quietly unsettling and so strangely soothing. Clock without origin is not about broken time. It's about time that never started. Let your shoulders drop. Let your legs go still. This isn't a place for rushing. This is a place for circling. Now. Picture a clock, not digital, not glowing. A quiet old thing with hands that click and gears that hum, but there's something odd about it. When you try to remember when it was first wound up, there's nothing. It was already ticking when you found it, already in motion, as if it never began, as if it doesn't need to begin. This is where the paradox lives, in the idea that something can exist without a first cause. Take your mind back, slowly. Think about your own life, your habits, your thoughts, your choices. Where do they begin? You could say your parents, or their parents, or something someone said when you were 6. But each cause has its own cause, and that one has another, and another. And eventually you get tired, because the trail never ends. It just loops. That's how this clock works. It didn't begin ticking. It was always ticking. In philosophy, this idea is linked to causal loops, closed circles where each event causes the next, and the last causes the first. No origin, no external cause. Just a loop sustaining itself, like a thought thinking itself into existence. Imagine this. A scientist receives blueprints for a time machine. She builds it. Years later, she travels back in time and gives those same blueprints to her younger self. The younger self becomes the older scientist. And so, but then who invented the blueprints? No one. They just exist, endlessly passed along. A loop with no birth. That's the clock without origin. It doesn't explain itself. It just continues, ticking, turning, repeating. Maybe your mind works like that sometimes. A thought appears, not random, but not from anything you can name. You think, I should rest now. But who told you that? Did your body say it? Did the idea come from this voice? Or from the sleep you haven't had yet? Maybe the decision to fall asleep is like the clock. It doesn't begin. It simply arrives. Complete timeless dot in dreams. This is normal. You find yourself somewhere already in the middle of something. You accept it, the scene, the emotion, the story already underway. No one questions where the dream began, dot. So let's treat this moment the same. You are already drifting, already dreaming, already inside a story that didn't need to start. A quiet loop where your breath responds to the moment, and the moment responds to your breath. Maybe the clock is your breath, dot in, out, not started. Just continuing. A loop of stillness. A rhythm of rest. You don't need to understand it. You don't need to rewind it. You don't even need to watch it. You just let it tick. Let it carry you. Let this paradox wrap around you like a blanket that was always there. Even before you noticed it, dot, it's not important when sleep begins. Only that you're already close, dot. So, breathe slowly. You're not late. You're not early. You're exactly inside the moment that already knew you were coming, and the next paradox, like a hand sweeping across a face, that's already familiar. It is gently waiting. You're lying still, wrapped in the soft hush of now. Nothing to recall, nothing urgent to remember, but then a flicker, a sensation, a moment that feels known, but not from before, not from yesterday, from something ahead. This is the paradox. Called memory from tomorrow. A strange space where what hasn't happened yet feels like something you've already lived. And somehow your body believes it. You felt this before, maybe that slippery moment when a new experience feels familiar. Not deja vu, not quite. That's the brain glitch they try to explain. No, this is gentler. Less confusing, more like your thoughts are pulling from a moment that hasn't arrived and already storing it, like the memory got tired of waiting and arrived early. Let your head settle deeper into the pillow. Let your breath move in slow tides. Now imagine waking up tomorrow and remembering this very second. Not as something that happened, but as something you were always going to remember. As if this calmness was already stored, already part of who you would become, and the only thing left was to arrive at it. This is where the paradox begins. To hum softly, in the idea that memory doesn't have to follow time. That maybe some memories lead the way. You don't have to believe in time travel to feel this. Think about instinct. That wordless sense that something is right, or wrong, or waiting. Where did that come from? Not from logic, not from the past. From something else. Something ahead. Maybe your dreams tonight will contain things that haven't happened yet. And when they do, your brain won't resist. It will store them. Place them neatly on the same shelf as yesterday's thoughts. Because memory doesn't check timestamps. It just remembers. There's a story of a child who always knew what was going to happen during thunderstorms. Not the weather, but the people, the emotions, the quiet argument that hadn't started yet. The lamp that would fall. The dog that would bark before the lightning. She didn't call it magic. She just said, I remember it. I haven't seen it yet, but I remember it. What if time is shaped by what needs to be remembered? What if you are resting now because your future self already looks back at this moment with gratitude for the stillness, for the breath, for the softness of letting go? You are not moving through time in a straight line. Not here. Not now. You're circling a still point. A place where memory folds back, not from the past, but from the future. Where the sense of safety you feel now didn't come from the of today, but from something ahead. A moment of peace you haven't lived yet, sending its comfort backward. Gently. You don't need to chase it. It's already here. You don't need to explain it. It understands you. You don't even need to remember it clearly, because memory doesn't need clarity. It just needs presence. And presence is what you're in. This is how sleep works too. You close your eyes. Not because you're tired now, but because your body remembers how it felt to be rested. And that memory might be from tomorrow. The dream you haven't dreamed. The stretch you'll do after waking. The moment your future self exhales, calm, full, thankful. That feeling is already leaking into you now, dot. So breathe with it, dot. Let tomorrow reach backward. Let your body trust what it doesn't yet know. Let your memory stretch in both directions, forward and back, like a river remembering the ocean before it arrives. You are not stuck in time. You are surrounded by it, dot, and somewhere in that circle is a version of you who remembers this night with quiet joy. Not because something amazing happened, but because peace arrived early, dot, in sleep, followed after. You're still here, still lying quiet in a room that's barely there. The world has softened, and time is folding around your breath. Nothing urgent. Nothing loud, dot, just one thought. Something simple. Where does the circle begin? That's what this paradox wants to ask. Not with force. Not with fear. Just gently, like a whisper caught between heartbeats. Looping first step. A strange, sleepy puzzle where the beginning and the end are the same moment. And the step you take to begin the journey is the one you've already taken. Again, dot, and again, dot, breathe with it. Dot, picture a person walking through a foggy path. Trees on both sides. The air is thick, but not cold. The silence is kind. They walk, one step, then another. The path curves. They keep walking. And eventually they return to where they started, but they don't realize it. Because it feels like the first step. Always. That's the paradox. You're always beginning. Even when you're already inside, dot, let your own body feel that now. The rhythm of your breathing. The small rise and fall. Each breath feels like the first. The beginning of something, but you've been doing it for hours, for years. Since birth, dot. And yet, in this quiet moment, it feels new. That's what a loop does, dot. It hides its starting point. Somewhere in the idea of time travel, philosophers began to notice something strange. If time can loop, truly loop, then beginnings become illusions. You're not starting something. You're rejoining it. Picking it up mid-spin. There's a story about a book. An old, worn copy passed down from hand to hand. A young writer finds it in a thrift store and is amazed. It contains the very story she's been trying to write. So she copies it. Every page, every word. Years later, she publishes it. It becomes famous. And someone donates that copy to a thrift store where her younger self will find it, dot. So who wrote the book? No one. Or everyone. Or maybe it always existed. Looping forever, dot, like the first step that is always the next. Maybe your thoughts work like that too, dot. Maybe this isn't the first time you've listened to this voice. Maybe this isn't the first time you've drifted into sleep with this idea in your head. Maybe your mind is on a gentle loop, not trapped, just cycling. Repeating a rhythm, it finds soothing, dot, and in that rhythm, there's no need to finish, dot, no. Pressure to start, dot, just the comfort of return, dot. Think about how your days unfold. You wake up, you move through patterns, you rest, you repeat, and yet every day feels like a beginning, even though it isn't, even though it never really ended. That's how this paradox lives inside you. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're just moving in loops, too wide to see. You started this journey not from the beginning, but from wherever you were. And somehow, that was enough. That's always enough, dot, so rest inside this idea. Let your next breath be the first. Let the quiet weight of your body on the bed feel like arrival. Let your mind drift to the thought that you've already done this very moment, and it brought you peace, which is why it's happening again. You're not stuck. You're circling, and circles are soft places to sleep. They don't demand direction. They don't demand conclusions. They don't even demand questions. They just hold you, dot, so close your eyes or keep them closed. Or let them flutter halfway between. You've already taken the first step, and now it's taking you. Somewhere far off, yesterday is still ending, not ended, not finished. Just hovering, pause in its last breath, like a candle that refuses to flicker out. That's what this paradox asks you to imagine. A moment from the past that never quite let go. Yesterday's final moment. A paradox where the end of something continues echoing long after the rest has slipped away. You don't have to think hard. Just let it sit with you. Feel it in the way your body holds tension from the day. The way a shadow clings even after the light is gone. You're safe now. The day is over. The noise has stopped, but something lingers. Maybe a thought. Maybe a feeling. Maybe nothing at all. Just a soft presence that isn't quite now. Maybe it's yesterday. Still waiting to finish. Let your body sink deeper into stillness. Let your breath slow, like time itself is hesitating. What if time doesn't end cleanly? What if each day doesn't drop off into nothing, but fades, slow, stretched like a note held too long on an old violin string? And what if that final note of yesterday is still playing? Imagine this. You light a match in a quiet room. The flame rises, warm, brief. It burns for seconds, then dies. But the warmth lingers. The scent of smoke stays in the air. The memory of its glow dances on your closed eyelids. That's what yesterday is doing, right? Now, still warming the space around you, still echoing, in physics. There's a concept called temporal non-locality, a fancy term that suggests time doesn't operate in neat sliced seconds. That maybe moments bleed into one another. That the end of one thing can quietly keep touching the start of another. Not as a clear handoff, but as a soft overlap. That's what this paradox explores. The possibility that what's gone isn't gone. Not fully. Maybe the conversation you had earlier today is still happening in some version of your mind, being replayed, reframed, retold in a loop of what ifs. Maybe your body hasn't caught up to the fact that the stress is over. Maybe your breath is still reacting to a tension that no longer exists. Maybe yesterday doesn't want to leave yet, and maybe that's okay. You're not holding on. It is still receiving the final vibrations of a moment that mattered, or DID in single quotes, T dot sometimes. The moments that refuse to end are the ones we didn't even notice at the time. A glance, a sentence, a breath, a quiet goodbye you didn't realize was final. Those become the loops that don't close. They linger. They settle into the folds of your thoughts and nest there, soft and unannounced. So let yesterday's final moment pass through you. Don't fight it. Don't rush it out the door. Let it complete itself, however long that takes. Because even if the sun has already set, some rays take just a little longer to stop reaching you. Even if the noise has gone quiet, some echoes keep circling the room. And even if the clock has turned to midnight, the mind doesn't always follow. Sometimes it drifts behind, walking slowly with yesterday's thoughts, holding their hand a little longer than it should. That's not failure. That's not confusion. That's just time being human. Or maybe you've been time. So rest with it. Like yesterday. Finish in its own way. Let your breath be the punctuation at the end of a sentence written hours ago. Let this night be the page where the final word finally lands. Not rushed. Not forgotten. Just placed. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're right on time for something that took its time ending. So sleep. Knowing that even endings take time. And that time, when softened by rest, doesn't need to hurry. Right now, you're here. Breathing. Listening. Resting. And yet, even as those words arrive in your ears, the moment they describe has already disappeared. That's the strange softness at the heart of this. Paradox. Present already gone. You can try to hold on to the present. You can pause. Stay still. Even stop your breath for a second, just to feel now. But by the time you think about the present, it's already behind you. Or a memory. The present is the one thing you can never truly catch. So maybe you're not supposed to let that thought sink in slowly. Like a stone settling at the bottom of a quiet lake. You don't need to chase the moment. You don't need to grip time. You're here to float, to drift, to gently observe the present as it disappears. Even now, this very sentence, it feels like now, but by the time it's over, it's already then. This paradox doesn't ask you to solve anything. It just asks you to notice that the moment you think about the present, it becomes the past. That the present is a ghost, always vanishing. And yet, somehow, you're still here. That's the beautiful contradiction. The present is already gone, And yet, it's the only place you ever are. Time moves forward, but your awareness lags just behind. Like a shadow following footsteps. Even though you took. There's a theory in neuroscience that your consciousness, your actual experience of the world, is slightly delayed. Your brain processes sound, light, motion, but only presents the summary to your awareness after it's happened. So technically, you're always experiencing a version of the past, even in real time. You never actually live in the present. You live just behind it, a heartbeat late, breath behind the breeze. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's why sleep feels so natural, because dreams don't need a now. They float in a space where past and future blend, where each moment feels eternal even as it fades. Like this one, right now your body is relaxing. Your muscles releasing one by one. But by the time you notice the relaxation, it's already begun, already in motion, already slipping past. The present is never yours to keep. It's just a gentle current you glide through, eyes closed, arms soft, letting time carry you. There's no need to reach for it. Just let it wash over you. Let it go. Because when you stop trying to catch the present, you find something better. You find peace in letting it pass. Think about the last time you felt truly present. Not because you tried, but because you forgot to try. Maybe you were staring at a flickering candle, watching a leaf float down a stream, listening to the hush of rain on a window. And in those quiet seconds, the present was gone before you even noticed it, had arrived. But you felt safe, still real. That's what this paradox holds. Not confusion, but calm that you are not supposed to hold the moment. You're supposed to be held by it. So as you rest now, let your awareness soften. You don't need to be perfectly here. You don't need to grasp this second. Just let it fade. Let it pass like a train you're not boarding. Let your thoughts wave gently from the platform. You're not missing anything. You're experiencing everything at the perfect delay. Because in this slow, sleepy state, the pressure to live in the present disappears. There's only breath. Soft breath. And the faint echo of time folding around you like a blanket. You're not behind, you're not too slow. You're exactly where you are supposed to be. Just a few moments after you arrived. And in that delay is the doorway to rest. To dreams. To letting go. So let the present pass. Let it go before you ever try to hold it. Let yourself be carried gently, slowly, by the time that's already passed through you. Because even if the present is already gone, you are still here, and that's enough. You are still the kind of stillness that feels earned. Not frozen, not stuck, just arrived. But where did you come from? You can't quite say. And more importantly, when? This is where we enter the paradox known as arrival before departure. The idea that sometimes you end up somewhere before you ever left. It's not a riddle to be solved. It's a feeling to be softened into. Let your breath do less. Let your thoughts loosen their grip. Let your body melt into the space beneath. You've already arrived. Even if your story hasn't started yet, now imagine a train station. You're sitting on a bench. Ticket in hand, suitcase at your side. You're waiting to board a train, but then you notice people are greeting you. Familiar faces. They say, "Welcome back." They hug you. They've been expecting you, but you haven't left yet. The train hasn't come. You're still holding the ticket, and yet somehow you're already here. You didn't arrive after the journey. You arrived before it. This is the paradox, and maybe this is how time truly feels when it isn't rushing you. In physics, there's a strange idea tucked into the corners of space-time equations. It's the notion that effects don't always have to follow causes, especially when dealing with things like closed time loops or quantum particles that seem to know the future before it happens. But in dreams, you've felt this too. You're in the middle of something, a scene, a conversation, a memory, and you realize you were always meant to be there. There was no beginning, no departure. Just arrival. Soft, unexplained, complete. Let yourself rest inside that. Let this moment be your arrival, not because you've finished something, but because you were always going to end up here. This bed, this stillness, this voice, this breath. It was always part of the journey. Even before you started, there's a story of a traveler who dreams every night of a place he's never been. He sees the same cobbled street, the same doorway, the same candle glowing in the window. One day, he sets out in search of it. And when he finds it years later, the candle is still there, still glowing. The same as in his dreams. He didn't just recognize the place. He remembered arriving there long before he ever left home. Maybe this happens to you in small ways. You walk into a room and feel like you've already lived this moment. You hear someone speak and know what they'll say next. You sit with a stranger and feel like the conversation's already happened. In some invisible thread of time, that's not confusion. That's your mind touching a version of time that doesn't line up neatly. A soft spiral instead of a straight line. Where arriving first doesn't need explaining. It just is. Maybe sleep works this way too. You don't always fall asleep after relaxing. Sometimes you begin dreaming before your body realizes it's safe. You don't always drift off because the day is over. Sometimes it's because tomorrow has already begun and your body quietly is catching up. Let this be your arrival. Not rushed. Not explained. Not even noticed. Until now, you've arrived in the space where rest happens before effort, where comfort comes before asking for it, where stillness lands before emotion leaves. You don't need to track how you got here. Don't need to gather your steps or make sense of your journey. You're simply here, and if that happened before you departed, let it. Because maybe not all departures are dramatic. Maybe you don't have to pack, to plan, to leave something behind. Maybe you just show up. Like a dream you enter mid-scene, like a song already halfway through, like a breath that begins before the inhale. This is a soft place. Place that welcomes arrivals without question. So arrive again. And again. And again, without ever leaving, without needing to start, without knowing when. This paradox doesn't ask you to do anything. It just holds you here until you realize you were never lost. You simply hadn't noticed you'd already made it. So rest in that. You're not behind. You're not early. You've arrived. And the departure? Maybe it never had to happen at all. It's quiet now. You've drifted far from the start, and yet something still lingers. Not loud, not urgent. Just presenta trace. A faint imprint. A moment that refuses to fade. This is the paradox of the event that echoes when a single event in time ripples outward endlessly, affecting far more than it should, far longer than expected. It's already passed. But it's still here, like the softest sound in the deepest part of memory, vibrating through thoughts, through breath, through stillness. Let your body ease into it. No need to move. No need to understand. You are simply feeling the ripple. Imagine this. You toss a small stone into a still lake. It sinks quickly. It disappears. But the ripples, the rings of motion spreading out from the center, they keep going. They touch every corner of the water, long after the stone is gone. That's what this paradox describes, not the event itself. But what keeps moving after it ends. Sometimes the biggest impacts come from the smallest moments. A glance, a word, a decision you barely remember making. Something so small it feels like it should have faded instantly, but it didn't. It echoes. Through time. Through other people. Through the shape of your days. And maybe through your sleep. You're lying here now, breathing slowly, eyes growing heavier. But some part what brought you to this moment wasn't today. It was something before. Something small. An event that didn't stop when it ended. One that kept rippling, quietly, steadily, until now. In science. Chaos theory gives us the image of a butterfly flapping its wings and causing a hurricane weeks later on the other side of the world. But in your life, it's even subtler. A childhood song playing in a cafe that reminds you of home. A sentence someone said in passing that replays in your head years later. A moment that changed nothing on the surface and everything underneath. That's an echo. Not loud. But lasting. Think about your body. How it remembers. Not just with thoughts, but with feelings. The way your breath might quicken when you walk into a certain room. The way your hands feel heavier when it rains. The way your chest softens at the sound of wind through trees, because long ago, that sound meant safety. These are not conscious choices. They're echoes of events. Still shaping your rhythm. Sleep, too, is an echo. The end of the day echoes the beginning. The way you rest reflects how you woke. The way you let go now mirrors how you once held on. You don't need to rewind the event. You don't need to name it. Just trust the ripple. Feel it in your breath. The way it slows, but not in a straight line. Like a wave gently finding shore. Again and again and again. Not because the event is repeating, but because its echo still is. And maybe that's the lesson. Hidden in this paradox, that the past doesn't stay in the past. It lives softly in the folds of your thoughts. Not to haunt you, but to remind you how connected everything is, that your calmness now might be the echo of someone's kindness long ago, that your stillness tonight might ripple into someone else's tomorrow. You are not separate from the story. You are the surface the ripple moves through. So breathe and let it move you. Let the echo carry you gently across the surface of rest, not pulling, not pushing, just gliding. Softly, endlessly, peacefully. The event already happened. You don't need to go back. You only need to drift forward. With the echo, you're here now, in the quiet between questions, the hush that lives behind every thought, the space where the past is done. And the future hasn't asked anything of you yet. You're resting in the middle. But what if this middle is not what you think? What if the future isn't waiting for you? What if it's building the path behind you? That's the slow and strangely comforting idea behind this paradox. Destiny builds history. It flips everything. We like to think the past makes the future, that our choices and memories lay down tracks we'll follow forward. But this paradox asks, what if it's the other way around? What if the destination creates the story that leads to it? Breathe with that for a while. No pressure to make sense of it. Just rest inside it. You're walking through a forest. The trees are tall and still. You think you're choosing the path, step by step, moment by moment. But with each step, the trail appears behind you, not in front. You're not following it. You're leaving it. But it was always going to look that way. Always going to be that path. Even though you didn't know it when you started, the paradox lives there in the possibility that your path is written by, where you were always meant to arrive. Let's stretch this gently. Think about the story of your life. The people you've met, the choices you made, and the moments you regret or cherish. What if those weren't accidents? What if they were necessary building blocks? Not because they led somewhere, but because something ahead needed them to exist. In this view, destiny isn't the final scene. It's the author. In history. Just its unfolding outline. In literature. Some writers start with the ending, the final image, the final sentence. And they work backward, writing the events that would have to happen in order to make that conclusion make sense. And maybe your life, your body, your mind does the same. Maybe your dreams tonight are not memories trying to process the past, but fragments of something already waiting for you. Some moment up ahead, already chosen, quietly shaping the path behind you. Even your breath might be part of it. This breath and this one, all unfolding because something already knows how this night ends. Not in a strict, controlling way, but like gravity pulling a river toward the sea. The river may curve and twist, but it never forgets its direction. Maybe that's what destiny is. Not a rule, but a shape. A pull, a quiet echo from ahead that makes the past necessary, even the hard parts. Even the delays. Even the moments that didn't make sense at the time, because destiny needed those bricks to build the road beneath your feet. And so now, here you are, at this quiet bend in the river. Not because of everything you've done, but maybe because of something that's still to come. Let yourself feel that softly, not as pressure, not as fate, but as trust. Trust that your path isn't random, that your sleep isn't pointless, that even this moment, lying still, wrapped in darkness, Listening to this voice is part of something larger than your memory. Maybe you've already arrived at something, and the past is still catching up. So rest now. Let destiny lay. The stones behind you. Let the story write itself backward. Let your heartbeat echo in both directions. And sleep. Knowing you're not lost in time. You're being carried by something that already knows where you're going and is writing the history to get you there. There's a plan not written down, not spoken aloud, but somewhere out ahead of you, it exists. You don't remember making it, and yet it feels familiar, like a shadow walking just ahead. This is the soft contradiction inside the paradox, known as tomorrow's forgotten plan. The idea that you've already made a choice about the future and forgotten it. And now you're slowly discovering what you already decided. Let yourself settle deeper into this, not to solve it, not to figure it out, just to feel how oddly restful it is. To imagine that nothing is unknown, only you and REMBERED. It starts small. You wake up with a strange clarity, the kind where you know what you're supposed to do. Not because of a to-do list, not because of logic. Just a quiet certainty, a direction your body seems to follow before. Your thoughts catch up. You didn't decide the plan that day. You remembered it. And somehow, that's what this paradox wants you to see. That maybe the future isn't a blank page. Maybe it's already been written by you, by a version of you that exists just slightly ahead. You don't need to believe in fate to feel this. It happens in dreams all the time. You're doing something, walking through a strange city, solving a puzzle, talking to someone you've never met, but you're not surprised. It all feels scripted, not by someone else, but by you. Just not the you from this moment, the future you, the one who made the plan. And then let it go. Maybe that's what you're doing tonight. Maybe sleep is the place where your plans rest until you're ready to remember them. Not conscious goals, not ambition, just shape, a soft design of what's already forming. And when you wake up tomorrow, rested, slow, quiet, maybe you'll follow a path that was already laid down, not because someone told you to, but because you already planned it. And then, like so many things in life, you forgot. But forgetting isn't failure. Sometimes forgetting is the only way to move forward. It frees you from forcing, from overthinking, from trying to be perfect. The plan is still there, but now you can follow it by feel. Like walking a trail in the fog. You can't see the end, but your feet keep finding the next step. Your breath knows when to pause. Your thoughts know when to soften. That's not luck. That's memory. Returning from tomorrow. So let yourself rest, not to figure things out, but to receive them later, gently. When the moment is right. Maybe the conversations you'll have next week are already waiting. Maybe the idea you'll have in 3 days is already written. Maybe the relief, the peace, the solution, it's already chosen. You're just approaching it. And when it arrives, it will feel like something you've always known, because you just forgot. So sleep like someone who already made the decision. Sleep like someone who already chose the path. Sleep like someone who is not lost, but gently remembering what's next. Let the plan unfold behind your closed eyes. Let tomorrow guide you by reminding you what you already knew, even if you forgot it on purpose. Somewhere you began, or maybe you didn't. Maybe this moment, this breath, this calm isn't at the start of anything. Maybe it's just part of a spiral, one with no center, no starting point, no first step. This is the slow unfolding of the paradox called originless time spiral. The idea that time may not have a beginning, only motion, only return. Let yourself drift into that. Not to understand it. Just to feel it. You're not climbing a ladder. You're floating in a spiral, a soft, endless turn. One that carries you forward and backward at once. One that never began and never ends. There's no pressure to figure it out. Only permission to let go. You can imagine it as a staircase. One that turns gently upward, but never reveals its base. You look down, expecting to see where you started, but all you see is more of the same steps, the same curve, the same gentle rise, as if you've always been climbing, even before you knew what a staircase was. That's the spiral dot. It doesn't trap you. It holds you, not in place, but in rhythm dot in the soft logic of repetition without start. And maybe your thoughts live here, too. Maybe the idea you're having now is one you've always had. Maybe your memories loop back through time, slowly, evolving but never originating. Maybe consciousness itself isn't something that began, but something that's always been spinning like a song without a first note dot in certain theories of cosmology. Time itself may be curved, bent, folded into something recursive. The universe may not have exploded into being from a single point. It may have always been spiraling, endlessly collapsing and re-expanding, like a breath taken across eternity. And maybe your breath is doing the same. Breathe in, not because it's the beginning. Breathe out, not because it's the end. Just let the rhythm continue, like it always has dot, like it always will. Even sleep follows this spiral. You descend into it slowly, turn inward, drift down. But there's no bottom, only soft loops of thought, memory, dream. Turning, returning, layering themselves across the night dot, no start dot, just entry dot, no finish dot, just fading, even your life. When you look at it closely, isn't a straight line. It folds back, repeats patterns, returns to emotions you thought were long gone, reopens questions you thought were answered. You spiral through versions of yourself, not wrong, not lost, just circling deeper into what it means to be alive dot. So, what if there is no origin? What if you don't have to be going somewhere? What if you're already inside the thing and always have been? Then you can rest dot, deeply dot, because there's nothing to chase. There's no beginning to find, no moment to rewind to. No single memory where it all started, only turning dot breath dot soft return. Maybe that's what peace really is. Not solving time, but resting in its spiral, letting yourself be held by something that doesn't demand you arrive anywhere. Just asks you to notice the shape of now. You're in it. You always were, even before you knew, even before you remembered, even before there was a story. And even now, as your breath slows and your body grows heavier, you are not descending toward. Sleep dot, you are spiraling softly into its centerless. Rhythm dot, no beginning dot, no end dot, just the comfort of motion without pressure. And the safety of not needing to know where it all began. Because maybe it didn't, and that's okay. You hear something, but nothing has made a sound dot, no voice, no movement, no source dot, just the softest impression. As if the sound is still coming. But its echo arrived first dot. This is the dreamlike logic of the paradox called echo before sound, where what follows gets there first. And what causes it lingers behind. Don't try to hold it. Just let yourself fall into it dot, gently dot. Imagine standing in an empty canyon. Still, wide, silent. You hear your own breath, your own heartbeat. Then, suddenly, a faint echo brushes your ears. A soft sound, bouncing off the rocks around you. But you haven't spoken yet. There's no sound to echo. And still, it's their dot waiting dot already dot this paradox. Doesn't ask you to question reality dot, it invites you to rest inside a different kind of sequence. One where effects arrive before their causes. Where the footprint shows up before the step. Where the response hums in the air before the question is even formed. And maybe you felt this before. The moment you reach for your phone. Just before it rings. The sense of comfort when entering. A room even before you see who's there. The strange familiarity before it's said out loud, dot, not magic, dot, not mystery, dot. Just the subtle echo of something not yet formed. Arriving early dot in physics. This echoes through quantum mechanics, where particles seem to influence each other across time, where information appears before the action that should deliver it. In psychology, it appears as intuition, the feeling that your body, your mind, your breath already knew, already prepared, already echoing. Even now, as you rest, your body might be responding to dreams that haven't begun. Your chest softens in anticipation of a calm that hasn't yet unfolded. Your limbs sink heavier into the mattress as if reacting to a peace that's still on its way, or maybe already passed through. That's the strange comfort of this paradox, that the soothing can arrive before the storm. That your breath can react to silence before the sound has broken it, because not everything waits its turn. Sometimes. What you need reaches you before you ask. Sometimes. The healing arrives before the wound is even clear. Sometimes. You relax before you know you're tired. Sleep works like that too. You don't drift off after everything's complete. You start fading, even while the thoughts still swirl. You start echoing sleep before sleep arrives. So what if your body's already heard the sound of rest? What if your breath is already answering the hush of dreams? Then you don't need to worry. You don't need to follow time's line. You're inside something softer. Something circular, recursive, kind. You've already been comforted. Already been answered. Already been held. By something that hasn't spoken yet. Let that be enough. Let the echo wrap around you like a whisper with no origin. Let yourself respond. Without needing a reason, you are not broken. You are not early. You are not confused. You are simply hearing the peace before it arrives, or maybe it already did. You're still moving, even while lying still. Even while drifting between thoughts and dreams. It doesn't feel like a beginning anymore, and it doesn't feel like an end. Just a journey, slow, weightless, suspended. But what if this journey built itself? What if every step you take isn't caused by where you came from, but by the very act of moving forward? That's the quiet wonder behind this paradox. Self-creating journey. The idea that the path exists only because you're walking it, that each moment generates the one before it. Not after, not a line, but a loop. A journey that births its own past. You didn't start it. You're not following it. You're making it in reverse. Let your body feel that gently. Each breath isn't part of a plan. It's the author of the moment behind it. You're walking backwards through time and laying bricks in both directions. There's a story about a painter. He stands before a blank canvas. But instead of choosing what to paint, he lifts the brush and lets the first stroke guide him. Each new line dictates what the previous one must have been. By the time he finishes, the image is complete, but it looks as though it was always meant to be there. Even though it never existed until that moment. That's what this paradox feels like. Your journey isn't pre-designed. It's self-designed. Decisions you make now reach backward and fill in the blanks. The future builds the illusion of a past. Think about the choices you made today. Some felt spontaneous. Some felt inevitable. But maybe none of them were fully caused by what came before. Maybe the choices themselves rewrote your story just enough to make the moment feel natural. Maybe you are not the traveler following a road. Maybe you are the road becoming real beneath your feet. Even now, in this quiet, sleepy state, your thoughts might be reshaping your past. Not by changing it, but by giving it new meaning. The kind that only arrives after you've already moved through it. A journey that loops back and fills itself in. This is how some dreams feel, too. You find yourself in the middle of a story. You weren't there a second ago, and suddenly, you know where you've come from. You remember events that didn't happen. You feel the weight of memories that were never formed. Because the dream is writing itself as it unfolds, and gifting you the illusion of continuity. Your sleep might be doing that now. Each wave of calm isn't arriving from behind. It's pushing backward, reshaping the day you just lived, softening its edges, smoothing over moments, stitching peace into hours that already passed, not because the day deserved it, but because this moment does. And from here, the rest reassembles, the past becomes kinder, the story becomes quieter, because the journey is now writing itself backward. You're not resting because the day led you here. You're resting because this moment is recreating the day. And if you sleep soon, it won't be because you followed the path. It will be because you made it, not before. But during right now, so breathe into the idea that there is no perfect beginning, only presence, only this. And From this, the rest will appear. The story, the memory. The reason dot all sculpted gently by your choice to rest now. You are the journey. And the destination. And the forgotten road in between dot no. One gave it to you. You didn't inherit it. You built it by deciding it was always meant to be. Something just shifted, but nothing moved. A change. Without a cause. A feeling without a reason. A breath. Without intention dot. This is the soft mystery of effect without action. A paradox where results appear, not from effort, but from stillness. Where something happens, even though nothing was done, you're not supposed to understand it. You're supposed to rest inside it. Right now, your body is unwinding. Not because you told it to. Not because you tried dot, just as you didn't take an action. You didn't flip a switch and still, the effect is here. Sleep works like that sometimes. You don't always fall asleep by trying. In fact, the harder you try, the further it drifts. But when you stop, when you do nothing, sleep arrives on its own, actionless effect that it feels like a contradiction. But in nature, it happens everywhere. Imagine snow falling in the middle of the night. There's no noise, no force, and yet by morning the world has changed. The roads are buried, the rooftop softened. A transformation born not from motion, but from stillness. Now imagine you're standing in a room. A candle flickers nearby, you exhale. You didn't intend to blow it out, but the flame dims. The room goes quiet. You didn't mean to cause anything, and yet the effect is real. This paradox lives in those in-between moments, where change doesn't announce itself, where impact doesn't require effort, where your presence alone is enough to shift the air dot. Maybe your thoughts work like that too. You walk into a room, the mood changes. You don't speak. You don't do anything. But something has shifted because you are there. Your existence causes ripples. Even when you remain still, even now as you lie quiet, doing nothing at all, your body is healing. Your mind is reorganizing. Your heart is recalibrating, and you're not making any of it happen. That's the paradox. That something can be affected by non-dash action, not laziness, not neglect, but stillness. Intentional, soft, sacred stillness, in Taoist philosophy. This is called wu-wei, effortless action. Letting the world move through you instead of trying to force it forward. It's the leaf that floats downstream, arriving exactly where it's meant to. By surrendering, you are that leaf now. You don't need to try. You don't need to fix. You don't need to push the effect. Rest, peace, restoration is already happening. Not because of action, but because of your stillness. Sometimes the most powerful shifts come not from what you do, but from what you don't do. You don't resist. You don't chase. You don't solve and that opens the space for transformation so let it happen. Let the calm settle in your limbs. Let the thoughts untangle without interference. Let sleep arrive. Not because you earned it, but because you allowed it. You don't need to light the flame. You don't need to put it out. You just need to be here, quietly, while the room changes shape around you. This is the paradox of effect without action And tonight, it's not a puzzle it's a permission slip to stop to float to feel something real without having to do anything at all. It feels like you're in the present, right here, right now. But what if you're not? What if now isn't something that leads your life, but something that follows it? That's the gentle twist inside this paradox. Now that follows. The idea that the moment you're in isn't ahead of anything. It's behind everything, drifting softly behind experience. Always catching up. Always a breath behind It sounds strange. But feel it. Right now you're breathing. You're thinking. You're resting. But each of those has already started before you noticed. Each sensation already in motion. Each thought already formed. Your awareness is always slightly delayed. The now you think you're in is already over so maybe now isn't a leader. Maybe it's a shadow, a reflection, a trailing awareness following after the real events. Let your body absorb that without effort. There's no need to fight it. You're not behind. You're right on time for a moment that was never meant to be caught. Some scientists believe our brains stitch reality together using past information. That what we think of as the present is actually a rolling summary of what already happened. A just out of reach collection of sensory echoes, emotions, and pattern recognition. A filtered version of what was served up as now, so. And then you say, this is the present. It's already too late, and still, that's the only place you can live. The now that follows doubt. Maybe that's why sleep comes in waves. Not because we start sleeping, but because sleep starts us. And we catch up to it slowly. Even now, maybe your breath softened a few seconds ago. Maybe your mind began to blur the edges before you knew. Maybe your body entered sleep before. Your awareness said, now I'm ready. The moment trails behind you like a soft scarf in the wind. You move forward and now flows behind, trying to keep up, but never ahead. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's why memory feels so strange at night. You remember things not as they happened, but as they became meaningful, not when they occurred, but when your awareness arrived just in time to feel them fall into place. So let go of the need to be present. Let go of the pressure to be now. You're not supposed to lead time. You're supposed to rest in its echo. Even your dreams don't. Begin when you fall asleep. They begin in a place you'll never quite reach, and your awareness follows the story, follows the sensation, follows the idea, not behind, not ahead. Just late enough to feel it as real. You're not missing anything. You are not arriving late. You're exactly in sync with the version of now that belongs to you. So rest inside the now that follows. Let your thoughts trail off like footprints in soft sand. Let your heartbeat echo backward. Let the day fade in reverse. Because here, in this kind of time, there's no urgency, only awareness, only softness. Only a quiet voice catching up to a moment that already accepted you. There's sand falling somewhere, you can't hear it. You can't see it, but you can feel it. A soft rhythm, a pull downward. Not fast, not loud, just constant. Like time slowly emptying itself. Grain by grain. But what if, when the hourglass runs out, it simply flips itself over? Not by hand, not by anyone watching. Just on its own, turning quietly, endlessly, on a loop. This is the image and the feeling behind the paradox called recursive hourglass loop. Time, recycling itself. Moments, repeating with slight variations. Cause and effect, feeding each other in a rhythm that never ends. Let yourself settle deeper into that image. A single hourglass. Not to measure time, but to become it, not straight. Not finite, just looping. Just returning. Over and over, without needing a beginning or an end. We think of time as a line. One direction. One flow. But this paradox reminds you, time may be more like an hourglass. Two sides, one neck, and an endless, gentle fall until the flip, and then again. Maybe your thoughts work this way too. You wake, you live, you sleep, then again. Wake, live, sleep. You don't start over, but you return. You loop through experiences, memories, routines, emotions, not on a flat track, but in spirals. Slight changes, familiar shapes, but always a return. There's a strange beauty to it, even now, as your breath slows. You're not descending into sleep as a new thing. You've done this before. Many times, you felt your arms grow heavy. You felt your chest rise and fall. You've listened to a voice guiding you down, now, and you flip the hourglass, and it's falling again and again. But here's where the loop becomes recursive. Each time the sand falls, it changes. Slightly. The shape it makes is a little different. The grains don't land in the exact same way. The pile grows. A new version of the same pattern. Time loops. But never identically. That's what recursion means. Returning. But with layers. Repeating. But evolving. Looping. But learning. Maybe your thoughts tonight are looping too. Not stuck, just spiraling inward, drawing closer to a center you don't need to reach. Each breath, a turn. Each silence, a layer. With each loop, something softens. The path becomes less sharp. The future becomes less heavy. The present becomes something you don't need to grasp at all. Just feel it falling. Grain by grain. You don't need to flip the hourglass yourself. It will turn on its own in the night, in your dreams, in the slow, subconscious pulse of time continuing, not ahead of you. But with you, let this loop be your rhythm now. Fall into it. Let sleep arrive again, not as an ending, but as another cycle, another fall of sand, another shape forming, not to complete anything, not to solve anything. Just to return, to breathe, to fall, to begin again, right where you left off, like you always do, like you already are. Somewhere in your mind, you made a decision, or maybe you didn't. Maybe what feels like a choice is just a quiet echo, a ghost, a soft illusion drifting just behind your thoughts, whispering, you chose this, but did you? This is the slow, unsettling, and strangely peaceful mystery of the ghost of choice. The idea that the feeling of free will might arrive after the action, not before, that your body moved first, and your mind simply followed, carrying an illusion that you chose. Let that rest with you. No need to resist it. Just let it land. Imagine standing at a fork in a forest path. Two directions. You pause, you think, you decide to go left. But what if the decision to go left had already happened before you thought it through? Before you noticed the options? Before your brain whispered, yes, that one. What if your feeling of choice was just a story? A comforting narrative created by your mind after the fact, so you'd feel like the author of your path. That's what some neuroscientists suggest, that the brain acts first or the second, before you're aware of it. And then your conscious mind fills in the story, adds logic, adds reasoning, adds choice. But the decision, it already happened, a ghost of choice, floating in afterward, to make it all feel personal, not false, not wrong, just quieter than we thought. So now, as you lie here, relaxed, listening, dissolving into softness, ask yourself gently, did you choose to rest? Did you decide to breathe slowly? Did you make the choice to fall asleep? Or are you following something your body already knew? Maybe your breath slowed on its own. Maybe your thoughts faded naturally, and your mind is just now catching up, saying, yes, I chose this. Even if it didn't, and that's not failure. That's not weakness. That's the design, a story, telling itself backward, just to help you feel like you belong inside it. Your thoughts don't need to be in charge. They can be passengers, drifting beside your heartbeat, witnessing the calm that's already unfolding. You are not lost. You are not helpless. You are simply watching the movie from a seat you didn't choose, but somehow fits perfectly. The blanket feels softer. The bed feels heavier. The air feels warmer, not because you made it so, but because you're receiving it, and if you feel the tug of sleep now, know this, it isn't because you decided. It's because it was already happening. And your mind, beautifully late, is whispering, yes, I wanted this. Even if the wanting came after the wave, so let that be enough, let go of the burden of being in control, let go of needing to lead. The moment, you're already inside it. And it's already carrying you, choice or no choice. You're here, in the ghost of choice. It smiles kindly and disappears. Something is missing. You can't name it. You can't find it. And yet you feel its absence, a gap, a pause, a tiny tear in the fabric of time. This is the haunting calm of the timeless. Missing moment, a paradox that asks, can something be gone if it never happened? Can you miss a moment that was never real? Tonight, we drift into that question, not to answer it, but to rest inside its gentle quiet. Picture a day, any day. You remember the beginning, you remember the end. But in between, There's a blank dot not forgotten, not erased dot, just missing dot, a space where something should have been. A decision, a meeting, a feeling, and instead nothing, and still the timeline moved forward. Unbothered, complete dot but not whole. This paradox rests in the mystery of those missing minutes, the ones that don't hurt, the ones that don't break anything, the ones that simply never arrived. And yet, somehow, their absence shapes everything around them. Dot in theoretical physics. There's an idea called a causal void, a region in space or time that technically doesn't exist, but whose absence still affects nearby particles. A non-event. That changes the shape of everything. Your life might have a few of those too. The moment you almost said yes. The call you almost returned. The emotion you almost let surface. Dot, they never happened, but the shape they left behind. You still carry that dot, maybe even now. Maybe this breath is passing through a space that was supposed to hold something else. A memory, a tension, a spark. And instead, there's just air, soft, silent, uninterrupted. Maybe that's why some parts of life feel light. Not because they were easy, but because something never occurred. And that non-event gave space for peace. Even sleep is full of missing moments. You close your eyes, and then it's morning, time vanished. You weren't unconscious, you weren't gone. But something slipped through the cracks, and what remains is a strangely peaceful kind of absence. You don't remember falling asleep. But you know what happened. The missing moment dot, the one without a timestamp. Without a memory dot, just a blank dot, and somehow it healed you. That's the comfort inside this paradox, that not every moment must be filled. That emptiness, too, can be sacred. You don't need every detail. You don't need to track every breath. Some parts of time are better left blank. Like pauses in a song, like spaces between words, like the silence that makes music. Music dot, so if you feel like you missed something today, maybe that was the point. Maybe the thing that never happened is exactly what made room for this. Stillness dot, let that soften you. Let yourself rest inside the missing dot, no pressure. No memory, no event dot, just space. And a body breathing through it dot, you're not broken. You are not behind. You're exactly where you are because something did not happen. And that's enough dot, let the timeless moment continue. Let it wrap you, hold you, disappear inside you, because even what's missing can bring you home. You are not who you were, but also not yet who you are. You're somewhere in the middle, shifting, becoming. But what if that becoming doesn't come from the past? What if the future is writing you? This is the quiet mystery of future rewrites. Self, a paradox where identity isn't built by memory, but by momentum, by what's ahead, by a destination you haven't arrived at. Yet, let yourself float in that dot gently, without needing to know what it means. Just let the idea rest. Beside you, like a soft weight on the bed, you think of yourself as a story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. A sequence of decisions, a library of memories. But what if all of that is being rewritten from the last chapter? Not because the past is changing, but because its meaning is. And the one doing the rewriting is the version of you still waiting on the horizon. You don't need to see them. You don't need to know who they are. But they're there, ahead of you, whispering edits backward through time. You've felt it before. That strange moment when something old, something long buried, suddenly makes sense. Not because you remembered it, but because your perspective shifted. A lens clicked into place, and suddenly, what was once confusion is now clarity. That's the future at work, not predicting, but shaping, like an author halfway through a novel, realizing what the story is really about and subtly adjusting every earlier chapter to match that theme. You're not waiting to become someone new. You're being rewritten to who you already were. You just couldn't see it yet, even now. Your rest tonight might be part of it. You're not unwinding because of what the day held. You're preparing for what's to come. The sleep that arrives may not be the result of fatigue, but a gift from your future self, a message sent backward, saying, rest now. You'll need this peace. And you obey without knowing why. You sleep, not to recover, but to realign. The past feels fixed, but meaning never is. And you once believed certain things about yourself. What you were good at, what you were afraid of, what you were destined for. But slowly, quietly, those beliefs begin to bend. Not because the past changed, but because something in the future is growing louder, a truth you haven't met yet, already softening the ground beneath who you thought you were. So let that happen. Let yourself be rewritten, line by line, breath by breath. You don't need to cling to the version of you that used to make sense. You don't need to protect the script you once followed, because you are still being shaped not just by what you've lived, but by who you're becoming. Let that be freeing. Let it lift something from your chest. You don't have to be finished. You don't have to be consistent. You are not a fossil. You are a draft, and drafts change. The future is gently editing the story of you, not erasing anything, just bringing out the deeper meaning, the buried theme, the character arc you couldn't see from the inside. So breathe into that. Sleep. Into that. Let your future self cradle you with quiet confidence, knowing that even if you don't see the destination yet, it's already shaping your steps. And that means everything you've done, even the confusion, even the pauses, even the mistakes, is being transformed into something necessary, because the future is writing backward. And tonight, it's writing you gently into rest. You're lying still, but something feels like it's going backward, not fast, not obvious, just gently unwinding. Like a tape spool rolling in reverse. This is the quiet feeling behind the paradox known as time's hidden rewind. The idea that not all motion is forward, and not all rewinding is visible. Time may be flowing backward, softly, beneath the surface. And you might be writing it without ever noticing. Let that settle in. You don't have to follow it. Just float. Imagine a movie reel, one of those old ones, ticking through frames. The story moves forward, but somewhere deep inside the reel, another track is playing in reverse, quietly, beneath the main film, folding time back into itself. You don't hear it. You don't see it. But it's shaping what comes next. Sometimes it feels like life is doing the same. You go through your day, step by step, work, breathe, think, repeat. But then something odd happens. A flash of memory. A feeling you've been here before. Like something rewound. Without your permission. And maybe it did. Maybe time doesn't always march. Maybe sometimes it curls. Loops inward. Slows down. Unwinds. Not to undo, but to soften. There's a concept in physics that imagines time as symmetric, meaning the laws of nature work the same in both directions. But our minds, bound to memory and habit, only register one flow, forward. Still, somewhere in your dreams, time moves both ways. You dream of something that hasn't happened. You relive something that never did. You forget something before it occurs. And in that space, the rewind isn't a glitch. It's a design. Even now, you might be returning, not to a place, not to a thought, but to a state, a quieter you. A more restful version, the one who existed before the day began. Your body is undoing the stress, unwinding the breath, reversing the knots in your muscles. And time, that slow, silent spool, is gently pulling you back toward a place that came before effort, a place that feels like the start, but is really the return. Maybe rest is a kind of rewind, not escape, but return to something simpler, something older, something that didn't need a reason, a time before clocks, before deadlines, before forward momentum. Maybe you're not falling asleep at the end of the day. Maybe you're returning to the beginning of yourself. Backwards, gently, silently. Time is not demanding your attention now. It's holding your weight. Rewinding softly beneath your breath. No noise, no friction. Just return. So let go of the idea that everything must move forward. Let yourself reverse, undo, dissolve. Let time carry you backwards, not to fix anything, but to cradle you in the stillness that came before all this, before the names, before the noise, before the version of you that tries. Because even if the world insists on progress, your body remembers peace, and peace doesn't always live ahead. Sometimes it lives behind, hidden in the folds of time, so fall into it. Let your breath rewind you. Let your thoughts slide gently back. Let time carry you in reverse until the noise fades and the first silence returns. You've been here before, haven't you? Not this exact bed, not this moment, but this feeling of settling, of unwinding, of sinking back into something you never left. This is the soft loop of the paradox called return without leaving. The idea that you can come home to a place you never departed. That return is not a movement, not a journey, but a recognition. You didn't go anywhere, and yet now you're back. Let yourself breathe into that. There's nothing to reclaim, nothing to retrace. Only a quiet arrival in the same stillness that was always beneath your steps. Think of a circle, not the kind you draw, the kind you feel. The loop you walk when pacing, the orbit of your habits, the rhythm of your breath. In, out, back in. You never left. But the return still feels real. There's a story of a monk who traveled far to find peace, walking across mountains, sleeping under stars, asking every teacher, every stranger, where do I find it? And after years, he sat down, exhausted, under a tree. And for the first time, he was still. He looked around and saw nothing new. But it felt like he had come home, not because he reached something, but because he stopped searching. That's what this paradox offers, a soft return. That was never preceded by departure. Maybe you've been holding tension today, or all week. Maybe you felt like you were far from yourself, caught in thought, in expectation, in effort. But now, right now, you feel something shift, loosen, arrive. As if a version of you has just stepped back into place, not from a distance, but from hiding. The you that never left just went quiet, just waited beneath the noise. And now you return to your body, to your breath, to the feeling of being someone who needs nothing but this stillness. Even sleep follows this loop. You don't fall into a different world. You return to one you carry inside, a landscape that's always been there. Dreams not as departure, but as re-entry into the soft space behind your eyes. And when you wake, you won't feel like you left sleep. You'll feel like you touched something familiar, something you return to again and again, without ever fully leaving. This is how healing works too. It doesn't always come from adding something, or changing, or going elsewhere. Sometimes it comes from remembering, from returning to the you that was always whole. Always enough, always here. So let yourself rest now. Not as escape, not as effort, but as return. Return to ease, to gravity, to the quiet hum of being present, without pressure. Let the paradox do its work. You didn't go anywhere, but welcome back. You are holding a map, though you don't remember unfolding it. Its corners are soft, or in places you haven't visited. There are paths sketched in faint lines, rivers that bend toward names you've never heard, and strange markings that seem to shimmer when your eyes pass over them, places you somehow already understand. This is the paradox of the unborn traveler's map. The idea that you are navigating your life using a guide written by a version of you that hasn't been born yet. A future self quietly laying down breadcrumbs across your past. And maybe that's why some places feel familiar before you arrive, why some people feel known that you meet them, why you sometimes make decisions with a confidence you can't explain. It isn't intuition, it's memory. From ahead, you aren't lost. You aren't even early. You're just following directions that were handed back through time by a version of you who already reached the ending. This map doesn't unfold in a straight line. It curves, loops, disappears and reappears depending on how still you become. Some days the path is obvious. Others you wander. But no matter where you go, you end up where you need to be, not because you chose well, but because the map was drawn by someone who had already walked it. And right now, in this breath, in this warmth, in this pause, you are right on track. Even as you rest, you're moving, not forward, not backward, but inward toward a point where all versions of you meet. The past you with all its wonder, the present you with all its questions, and the future you quietly laying down markers on the trail. Sleep now, knowing you haven't missed a turn. You're following the map. A map written in a hand you don't recognize, but somehow trust completely. A map drawn by someone you haven't met because they are still becoming, and their only job is to guide you gently home. It feels like you're sinking into quiet, but maybe you're actually moving, just not forward. There's a strange stillness that grows louder the deeper you drift, but it's not the absence of noise. It's a kind of silence that feels like motion in reverse. This is the paradox of backward motion silence, where rest isn't stopping, but moving softly backwards through thought, through breath, through memory. As if your mind is peeling away each sound, each pressure, each echo of the day, one at a time, returning not to nothingness, but to the untouched quiet that was always underneath. It's not regression. It's not forgetting. It's unlayering. Think of it like walking into a room where a song has just ended and the air still vibrates. With its last note, except instead of fading away, the silence grows richer. It folds in on itself, and with every breath, it pulls you gently backward, not toward chaos, but toward stillness that predates movement, toward silence that holds weight. Maybe this is why some moments of peace feel unfamiliar, like you've gone too far, like you've crossed back into a version of yourself that hadn't yet learned noise. You're not escaping. You're arriving at a still point that's always been behind you, hidden, waiting. In this place, even your thoughts move in reverse. Concerns dissolve before they form. Sentences unwrite themselves mid-thought, and memories drift away as if being returned to where they came from. The world outside still spins forward, but you're floating backward into softness, into simplicity, into a version of reality where silence isn't the end of sound, it's its origin. Maybe that's what dreams are too. Not forward flights of imagination, but backward slides into what was always waiting. Maybe every time you close your eyes, you return to the silence before the first word, before the first breath, before the first name you ever answered to. It's not the silence of absence. It's the silence of return. And the motion you feel now, that heavy, delicious weight pulling you down, isn't gravity. It's time letting you back in. So keep sinking. Let every breath take you further into stillness, not as escape, but as arrival. You are not still. You're simply moving backward, deeper, slower, into the soundless truth that nothing needs to be said and nothing more needs to be done. Because here, in backward motion silence, you're finally returning to the part of yourself that never needed to speak at all. Time is supposed to move forward, pulling you with it, moment by moment, like beads on a thread. But what if the thread circles back? Not in a perfect ring, but in a slow spiral that feeds itself. This is the final paradox. Timeline feeds loop the idea that your future isn't just shaped by your past, but that both are sustained by the loop they quietly create together. Each moment reaching forward and backward, feeding the cycle without ever escaping it. You're not walking down a line, you're spinning inside a story that keeps itself alive, like a dream remembering itself, like a breath inhaling because it remembers the exhale. Maybe every time you grow, something in your past rewrites itself, just enough to allow it. Maybe every time you forget, something in your future adapts to make space for that forgetting. It's not cause and effect anymore. It's co-creation. Time isn't linear here. It's a gentle Ouroboros. The snake that swallows its own tail not to destroy itself, but to sustain itself. Even now, lying still, listening, breathing slowly in the hush of sleep. Your mind might feel like it's winding down, but what if it's winding in? Toward a center that isn't a beginning or an end, but a constant point of return. Maybe your life hasn't been a sequence of events, but a loop fed by itself, a pattern only visible from far enough above or deep enough within. Think about how some thoughts return years later with new meaning, How old fears dissolve in the presence of future calm. How sometimes you say, I always knew this, even though the knowing just arrived. Maybe that's the loop completing itself. You aren't trapped in it, you are sustained by it. The timeline isn't your enemy. It's your environment. And tonight, it's feeding the loop by giving you rest, giving you softness, giving you this quiet hour where nothing more is required but your willingness to lie still and trust that time, even twisted, even looping, even soft and recursive, is carrying you exactly where you were always going. Let the loop hold you now. Let the forward and the backward blend. Let the spiral thicken around your breath until you don't need to follow anything at all. You're not late. You're not early. You're simply where the loop folds in, where time bends into sleep, and where the story for now rests. You've drifted through impossible clocks, causeless ripples, futures that whisper to the past, and dreams that arrived before the day began. You've sat quietly inside spirals that never needed a beginning. You've let time stretch, bend, and disappear softly, slowly, without resistance. And now you're here, not at the end, not at the start, just here, at the still center where all directions dissolve. The part of the loop where nothing more needs to happen. Maybe you fell asleep hours ago. Maybe you're hearing this as a distant echo, a voice caught somewhere between your final waking breath and the first flicker of a dream. Or maybe you've stayed awake the whole time, floating through each idea like a boat drifting down a river that didn't need a destination. Either way, you've been moving through time differently tonight, not by minutes, not by hours, but by feeling, by breath, by the subtle shift of letting go. We often imagine time as something that presses forward, as something urgent, something that pushes us from behind. Deadlines, calendars, the clock on the wall whispering, go, do, become. But what if time was never meant to rush you? What if it was always meant to carry you gently, like water, like wind, like warmth? What if all the pressure to move was only noise, and underneath it was stillness, already waiting? Tonight, you allowed yourself to rest in that stillness. You peeled back the layers of the ticking world and stepped softly into the folds of thought that don't need direction. You explored questions that don't ask to be answered. You lingered in contradictions that don't demand clarity. And in doing so, you may have felt something uncoil, a breath, a muscle, a memory, something that was waiting to be softened by time, not rushed by it. That maybe you've started to understand that not every moment needs a purpose. That some hours, especially these quiet ones, are meant only to be experienced, not remembered, not explained, just felt. Maybe in the process of relaxing, you return to a part of yourself that doesn't live inside time at all. The part that doesn't keep track, that doesn't compare, that doesn't chase. You listen to futures that fold backward, presents, that arrive late and past that echo forward. You followed the logic of loops, ghosts, rewinds, and disappearances. But in the end, the only destination was this, stillness. Not the kind you earn, but the kind that returns to you once you stop reaching. And maybe that's the truest form of time travel, not escaping this moment. But finally arriving in it, don't let the seconds stretch a little longer now. Let the idea, what comes next, grow quiet. Let your thoughts slow until they stop needing shape. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not stuck. You are simply suspended perfectly within a moment that doesn't care about direction. Only presence. Let your body continue softening. Let your breath become lighter than thought. Let the weight of the day settle behind you like dust finally drifting to the floor. You don't have to carry the paradoxes anymore. You don't have to hold the questions. They were never problems to solve. They were lullabies in disguise. Time will keep going after this. You'll wake up. The sun will rise. The world will move again. But you will have touched something deeper, something quieter, something that reminds you that time doesn't need to be escaped. It only needs to be understood less literally and felt more gently. So let yourself disappear into that understanding. No clocks, no tension, no beginning, no end. Just you, just this moment. Still, weightless, held in this loop that never started, this clock that never ticked, this breath that belongs to no time at all. Sleep